The reality is, Deandre Ayton isn't just sitting on the Lakers bench by coincidence anymore. This latest decision has weight, timing, and intent behind it. And around the league, executives, players, and insiders are all reading the same warning signs. When a former #1 overall pick finds himself sidelined again on a team built around urgency and championship expectations, it stops being about one game or one matchup and starts becoming about a much bigger plan that could change his future overnight. What makes this moment feel heavier is the context surrounding Ayton's arrival in Los Angeles and the expectations that followed him. The Lakers didn't bring him in as a developmental project or a long-term experiment. They brought him in as a stabilizing presence in the middle, a proven rebounder, a reliable interior scorer, and a player who could take pressure off the stars. From the outside, the move looked logical, almost inevitable. But internally, that logic is now being questioned in ways that are becoming harder to ignore. The pressure has been building quietly, and then all at once. Each benching hasn't been framed as punishment or panic, but the pattern is impossible to miss. Reports indicate that coaching decisions around Ayton have shifted from matchup-based adjustments to something far more deliberate. Minutes have tightened, roles have blurred, and the trust that once seemed automatic now appears conditional. For a player of Ayton's stature, that kind of uncertainty sends a message, even if it's never spoken publicly. Publicly, the Lakers continue to strike a careful tone. Coaches emphasize flexibility. Team sources talk about depth, rotations, and long-term vision. But behind that language is an organization that understands. The clock is always ticking in Los Angeles. Every move is weighed against the present and the future, and Ayton's situation now sits directly at that intersection. When a franchise like this starts testing life without you on the floor, it raises uncomfortable questions about what comes next. Around the league, rival teams are paying attention. Front offices don't ignore repeated benchings of a high-profile center, especially when trade deadlines and off-season planning loom. Sources suggest that scouts have been quietly reassessing Ayton's value, not just in terms of production, but fit, mentality, and adaptability. The Lakers know this too, which makes every decision feel layered, strategic, and potentially irreversible, setting the stage for moves that haven't been announced yet. For Ayton himself, the moment is deeply personal. This is a player who has heard questions about motor, consistency, and engagement follow him from city to city, season to season. Being benched again doesn't just affect stat lines, it chips away at perception and leverage. In a league where narratives harden quickly, every game spent watching from the sideline reshapes how decision-makers define you, whether fairly or not. And that's where the tension truly sits. The Lakers aren't just managing rotations, they're managing optics, leverage, and future options, while Ayton is trying to prove his worth without the very platform designed to showcase it. With trade rumors growing louder and new reports hinting at a broader organizational plan, this situation feels like it's approaching a breaking point that could force a decisive move sooner than expected. Make no mistake, the benching isn't happening in a vacuum anymore, and that's where the situation around Deandre Ayton starts to feel volatile. As whispers turn into conversations, and conversations turn into reports, the Lakers find themselves balancing two competing realities: the need to win now and the need to protect long-term flexibility. Ayton's role sits uncomfortably in the middle of that tension, and every reduced minute on the floor makes the next decision harder to walk back. Inside the organization, sources suggest there have been ongoing evaluations that go beyond box scores. The Lakers have been closely examining lineup chemistry, defensive communication, and how possessions flow when Ayton is on the floor versus when smaller or more mobile units take over. None of this is unusual on its own, but when those evaluations repeatedly end with Ayton watching critical stretches from the bench, it signals an internal conclusion forming behind closed doors. The rumors didn't surface by accident. League insiders have begun connecting dots between the Lakers' recent rotations and the types of players being quietly discussed in trade frameworks. Ayton's contract, age, and positional value make him both an asset and a complication. Teams with cap space or front court needs see potential, while the Lakers see a piece that could unlock flexibility elsewhere. The more uncertainty surrounding his role, the more aggressively those external conversations begin to take shape. For the coaching staff, the situation is becoming increasingly delicate. Winning culture demands accountability, but managing a former #1 pick requires a different level of care. Benching Ayton again sends a message not only to him, but to the locker room. It raises questions about hierarchy, trust, and whose voice ultimately carries weight when adjustments are made under pressure. That tension doesn't disappear after the final buzzer. It lingers into practices, film sessions, and private meetings. Ayton, meanwhile, is caught between patience and frustration. He hasn't lashed out publicly, and his comments remain measured. But players around the league recognize the signs. When confidence erodes, effort becomes scrutinized more harshly, and every missed rotation or contested rebound feels amplified. For a big man whose value is often judged by impact rather than opportunity, one that spotlight can become suffocating, especially when the minutes aren't there to counter the narrative. What's making this even more precarious is timing. The Lakers are approaching a stretch where clarity is essential, not optional. Front offices don't like ambiguity as deadlines approach, and neither do players. If Ayton remains in limbo, the organization risks losing leverage, both in trade discussions and internal alignment. The longer this drags on, the more it forces a choice that can't be delayed much longer. At this point, it's no longer just about whether Ayton fits on the floor. It's about whether his presence aligns with the Lakers' evolving identity and ambitions. Every benching sharpens that question, and with each game, the possibility grows that a turning point is approaching, one that could redefine both Ayton's trajectory and the Lakers' direction in a matter of days. There is no denying this situation is now approaching its most fragile stage, and for Deandre Ayton, the margin for patience is disappearing. Every night he remains on the bench during meaningful stretches deepens the sense that a decision has already been sketched out, even if it hasn't been announced. Around the league, when actions begin to speak louder than public messaging, players often learn the truth before the headlines ever catch up. Inside the locker room, the atmosphere grows more complex with each passing game. Teammates are focused on winning, but they're also aware when a major piece feels unsettled. Chemistry doesn't collapse all at once. It frays quietly. Ayton's presence, his body language, and his interactions are being watched closely, not out of suspicion, but because everyone understands what uncertainty does to a team chasing high expectations. When trust wavers, even slightly, it creates a ripple that coaches can't always control. For the Lakers' front office, the stakes couldn't be clearer. Holding on to Ayton while limiting his role risks diminishing his perceived value. Moving him too quickly risks backlash if the return doesn't match the original investment. Reports suggest the organization is weighing scenarios carefully, measuring whether patience could restore alignment or whether decisive action is the only way to regain control of the narrative. Every option carries consequences, and none are without risk. From Ayton's perspective, this moment tests more than his skill set. It tests his resilience, his professionalism, and how he handles being defined by others instead of by opportunity. Big men in today's NBA live under constant evaluation, and once doubts take hold, they can follow a player from city to city. Ayton knows this, which is why the silence surrounding his future may feel louder than any criticism ever could. Fear and hope now coexist in the same space. Fear that the Lakers have already moved on mentally, and hope that one strong stretch, one recalibrated role could reset everything. But hope needs opportunity, and opportunity has been inconsistent. As trade chatter grows and internal patience thins, the window for redemption appears narrower with each game that passes. What makes this moment so compelling is that nothing has been finalized. No move has been announced. No doors have officially closed. Yet the signs are unmistakable, and the direction feels increasingly hard to ignore. Deandre Ayton's time in Los Angeles is standing at a crossroads, and whichever path the Lakers choose next could define not only his future, but their own, in ways that won't fully reveal themselves until it's already too late. The truth is, this situation remains unfinished, and that uncertainty is what makes it so tense. Deandre Ayton is still a Laker, still practicing, still preparing as if his name will be called. But the ground beneath him feels increasingly unstable. Reports continue to suggest that Los Angeles is weighing multiple paths, some that include Ayton as part of the solution, and others that quietly prepare for life without him. Nothing has been signed, nothing has been finalized, and yet the direction feels closer to being revealed with every passing game. For now, the Lakers are walking a careful line between flexibility and commitment, between patience and urgency. Ayton's future hasn't been decided publicly, but the signals being sent internally are hard to dismiss. Whether this ends with a renewed role, a reshaped identity, or a move that sends him elsewhere, the outcome will ripple far beyond one player or one roster decision. Until something becomes official, everything remains in motion. Plans can shift, roles can change, and opportunities can still emerge. But in Los Angeles, hesitation rarely lasts forever. When the next decision comes, it won't just answer questions about Deandre Ayton. It will reveal what the Lakers truly believe their path forward has to be.